How's it going, guys? Ethan here. On today's video, I'm going to show you how to build this super simple and economical semi-permanent hunting camp tent A-frame shelter with a canvas tarp for like $100 for everything. And it's not something that takes a lot of skill to do, and any one of you guys could do it, and I'd say almost any of you could afford it also. So let's jump right into the video. Alright, so the first thing that you're going to need is some lumber and obviously your tarp. As far as my material list that makes up this pretty cheap build, there's not a lot here. Really, all it amounts to is 5 2x4s treated 10-foot and the 8x10 canvas tarp. Pretty heavy, that's why need a good sturdy frame for it. Not exactly like a paracord ridgeline sort of a thing. It's pretty heavy, but not insane. It's something that you could do like the roll that I showed in the last video, or pack over your shoulder. The tarp run about $60. I think these are actually on sale at my local farm store right now for $50. So if you look around, you could probably even get a better deal. And then $40 in 2x4s. I'm doing it in treated because I want it to last a while out here in the elements. And that's kind of the point in this being a more stationary hunting camp for you guys to keep coming back to year after year, sort of a thing. If you don't have a cabin, can't afford to do something like that. I know I can't. This is a great option. Other than that, you need, probably at least 3-inch, something like a 3-inch deck screws, guard dogs, something like that. That's what I'm going to be using. Screws or something. I didn't really include those and how much this thing cost. I already have them. It may be a pretty big assumption to say that if you guys are doing something like this, you may already have some screws laying around you can use. But, screws are a pretty useful thing to have no matter what. So I kind of make it hard to consider that something for just these, because you can use them for so many other things. As you guys already saw in the opening clip, what I'm going for is more of an A-frames type of thing. Initially, I thought about doing like a wall tent sort of a deal. I opted to go with the A-frame to go with bigger footprint. This should end up being like a 5.5 foot wide footprint at the base and 3.5 foot tall, if all my math and drawings work out right. So pretty roomy already. And you have, with the A-frame, you're going to have narrower ends for wind and weather to blow in than you would with that more wall tent thing, because these are going to be open on the ends. There's not enough tarp to cover it on all 4 sides. That's the plan. That's the design. Enough talk. Let's go ahead and get right into this thing. Okay, need 2 5-footers, or 8-footers, sorry, to start with, because we're going to frame the back side of this like a small wall. If you guys are familiar with wall framing and construction, that's kind of the way that I'm going to do the back portion of it. A top plate, a bottom plate, 2 end studs, and a middle stud. To start with, I need 2 8-footers for the top and bottom. Like I said, this is a 9-foot tarp, but I want to do a little bit smaller than the tarp because I want lap over the sides. If you try to get it too close to dimension, the tarp's just going to want to fall off the edges into the middle of the frame, and it's not going to stay in place. So if I have it to where it's able to hang over everywhere, and a little bit of wind, it should stay in place better, and it'll be easier to tie it down. So 2 8-footers. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut my 3 studs that I need. So I need each sides of this thing to be 5 foot tall, and you have to account for your top and bottom plate. So you can't just cut these 5 foot. You're going to have to subtract 3 inches, because 2.5-inch plates equal 3 for your overall height. So if you're looking for a certain number, so we're looking for 5 foot tall little wall per se. So we're going to want to make that 4'9" is the length that we're going to want to cut all 3 studs. So I should be able to get a stud, 2 studs out of each of these 10-footers. 4'9". So I'm going to get these 3 studs cut and piled up, and then I'll talk about the other part. Okay, so as you can see, I've got the components for the studs and the 2 top plates. That is going to be what constructs the back. Now I'm going to end up using some of this plate right here in order to make some bridging per se that's going to go through the middle portion of this, so then the tarp doesn't have such big holes that it wants to fall through. It'll help kind of enclose that back part a little bit better and give a spot to, I'm going to put some pegs to be able to hang stuff off of inside the shelter. Left over from the the 4th 2x4 right here is my drop from the other 4'9" piece. So this is going to become one of those legs on the front that I need. On the front, in order to have that 5 foot overall, since I am not going to have a plate, and since this is going to, it's going to make like a 45. You can imagine you're kind of creating an L and you're just setting it over on edge. The 2 front pieces are going to be an actual 5 foot length because they don't have plates. It's going all the way to the bottom and it's slipping onto the inside and going to all the way to the top. And they're going to, in theory, they're going to kind of be meeting peak for peak inside that wall frame. You can cut these 5 foot and that's going to be about exactly right. So, and that will be just the 2 drop legs that are going to basically, they're going to be a kickstand to hold up the back, but to give the tarp its structure to be able to fold it all the way over and make the A-frame part of it. So I'm going to go ahead and cut those 2 5-footers and we're going to move on. Okay, so here's all of our final cuts of material. Just so you guys can have it one more time. 2 8-footers for top and bottom plates. 3 studs cut at 4'9" to account for that 3 inches worth of plate on, 1.5" top, 1.5" on the bottom to have a true 5 foot. And then 2 actual 5-footers that are going to make the front side kickstand for the wall. So that's our cut list for now, and we're going to go ahead and start putting it together. So this part, for the most part, is rather self-explanatory. If you guys are familiar with house construction, home construction, whatever, the whole framing a wall and putting a wall together. If not, there's probably hundreds of millions of thousands of YouTube videos to kind of give you guys the gist of this. So I'm not going to go super in depth with it. But you guys will kind of get the gist and understand what's going on. Basically, this is the way it's going to lay out. And I'm just going to take 2 deck screws at each spot, 2 top, 2 bottom on every stud, and screw this thing together, and then get this bridging piece put in the middle as well. A handy trick that I used constantly over the years that I spent in construction as a lead carpenter and a professional carpenter was, rather than using a tape measure, any chance that you can, you scribe things. So just to save yourself some time, rather than sitting here and try to measure and figure out what this is exactly, as long as this piece and this piece are relatively straight and you're not, you know, just making a bad situation worse, you can come up here to the top where you know it's good, butt this piece to the inside of this piece, since you know this is going to go inside, not outside. Butt this one into this one, come down over here, you know it's going to go to the inside right here, mark it. Take out your square, strike your line. So there you go. You never even had to pull a tape, and you were going to have to mark and put your line on anyway. So why not knock it out all in one shot without having to constantly use a tape measure all the time? So just a quick little tip for you for any project you guys might be doing. Okay, so this piece of bridging, I was not accounting for enough material to do, you know, everything in one piece, including the bridging. So I'm short the piece to do this, and all I intended on doing was just scabbing. I knew I'd have enough to scab something together. If you're a super duper perfectionist and this is going to bug you, then plan on getting, you know, an extra 8-foot treated 2x4 or something like that. But for me, I had no problem piecing this together with scrap for the purpose that it's serving. All right, so as you can see, our back frame is, so make sure this mic's still on, our back frame is constructed at this point. So the last part is our front kickers that make the front part of the shelter frame. So those are going to go just like that. What I'm going to have to do is I'm probably going to have to flip this thing over so that I can, or stand it up somehow. That may be what I end up doing, standing it up somehow so that I can have these going like this so I can screw them in, because that's how they're going to be. You're going to screw them in like this, and by the time you topple this thing back over, you're going to have an A-frame at, you know, basically a 12-12 pitch, 45 degrees, because this is a 90 connection right here. So okay guys, well there we have it. Now I just need to kind of move it back a little bit to position it where I want it. Kind of play with the whoop, should have messed my mic up. Play with the positioning a little. I normally, my shelf that before this kind of tapers off that I sleep on is right there. So I probably better have what I'm used to doing is having the peak, because I usually pull my ridge line between these two trees. And this is the spot where I sleep. This kind of a shelved off spot right here where I've kind of dug at it a little bit. So I might come back just a little bit, but that's pretty well it right there. See if these have plenty of, oh yeah, these are plenty strong, plenty of support. What I might do, since I think I'm happy with this spot, I think I'm going to kind of drive those points, those corners, into the ground a little bit, and that will keep them from wanting to kick out, and that should support under the weight and not move at all. But you guys can pretty well see what I've done. It's pretty straightforward. Like I said, most of the time in fair weather, I plan on having this front flapped open. And if it looks like it's going to rain, I'll pull the flap down and I'll be able to tie it off around these. No problem. So let's grab the tarp and get it on. Okay. Another thing I really like about this design, now I'm actually here doing it, is, you know, with that little lean-to, old lean-to out of trees and saplings that I had before, It made it kind of hard to finesse this thing onto the shelter without knocking the we're inside out, without knocking the frame all over the place, because the frame was not very skookum or robust whatsoever. And again, dimensions. This is a 9-foot by 10.5-foot tarp. So, what that allows is that should allow me to have some extra tarp. Perfect. Looks like I've still about 6 inches hanging over here and 6 inches hanging off over there. And I've got grommets in this thing throughout where I can tie it back to the frame if I wanted to leave it for very long. I'm not going to leave it for very long today, but as you can see, I've got tie outs already sewn on that are already sewn into this tarp, but I can put more on if it gets to be inclement weather. Then there we go. We've got a totally enclosed shelter that will withstand the elements no problem. And I can stake. Well, what I would do is I'd end up taking some sticks and staking these sides down, or just staking this whole side down over here. I'd probably even stake if I was going to be here for very long, more than just coming out, staying a night or so, not worried about a lot of wind. That back part's not going anywhere as it is, but if there was much wind, probably want to just batten this thing down all the way, stake out a bunch of spots, and then it wouldn't go anywhere. Got the trusty old Vaughn 23 ounce California framer. Old Faithful, I call her. So we're just gonna, just for demonstration purposes, I'll bring real stakes. I usually have real stakes anytime I come out here anyway, but for demonstration purposes, what will happen with this thing if we actually, plan on staying out here for any prolonged period of time, then this is what we're going to do. Guys, welcome inside. Check this out. I mean, this is every bit of as much room as I had initially figured. It's 5.5 foot wide. I mean, look, I'm 6 foot tall. I have a over 6 foot wingspan. And so, I mean, it's actually more like 6 foot at the base. There's a lot of room. And even though, yeah, wouldn't necessarily lay sideways in this, what that means is I've got room to put my bed right here in this hollowed out spot a little bit, or the shelf that is that I've kind of made. I can put my bed right here and have room to put tons of gear in here. And you can see this bridging. What I have plans for is I plans on putting pegs and stuff in here, like putting some pegs in this bridging, whether it's just some nails or screws, whatever, or actual dowel pegs to be able to hang stuff, to be able to just lay in here, hang my headlamp, hang my knife. I want to have a spot up here where I can hang my little Yuko lantern, stuff like that. This is going to be really awesome for a more permanent option, because like I said, this frame is going to stay here. This frame isn't going anywhere. It'll be here forever, or at least until the treated wood rots. Or if I wanted to, kind of deconstruct it a little bit, take these two legs off and take it somewhere else, I can. I'm pretty happy with this, and for the price tag, and with some materials that I already had on hand and limited tools, worked out pretty good. Well guys, there you have it. There is my hunting camp, bushcraft / getaway for the night spot out here in the woods. And as I've mentioned several times already, in nice weather like this, I'll probably just take, you know, quite a bit of this front part of the canvas and just flip it up and over to have more of like just a little lean-to style of shelter when the weather's nice and no rain or anything like that. But how simple is that, guys? And it's so cheap that, you know, I would say just about anyone could afford it. It was only about $100 worth of materials, screws, tools I had on hand. But if you needed, you could borrow tools. Screws aren't that expensive. A lot of you guys may already have them. Just borrow someone's drill or impact driver like you saw me using, and use some good deck screws to put this 3-inch deck screws, or 2.5s, 2 3/4 to put this thing together with. And it'll stand here for a long time. And as far as a saw, you could use a hand saw to do everything on this. You don't have to have a battery-powered circular saw like you saw me using. But I think this is going to work out awesome. And for a hunting camp option, something that you guys can just leave on your hunting property or out at your, you know, place that you like to go hunt at. You know, maybe it's someone's farm and they wouldn't, and you go normally take a, you know, tent or something like that out there, and they wouldn't care if you left a frame like this out of the way where they're not going to hit it with a brush hog or tractors, anything like that, or livestock mess with it. You could do something like this. Just take the tarp with you and bring the tarp back every year. Or if you got the money to waste and you come out regular and pretty often, just leave the tarp on it. I'm probably going to take the tarp on and off just because I'm not out here every night or even necessarily every week. But how sweet is this for a camp setup, you know, out in the woods, off-grid, little hunting camp on the cheap. I'm not a rich guy by any means. We live pretty meager, but this was totally affordable, and this is totally substantial and a pretty skookum semi-permanent setup. So guys, I know this is something a little bit different, but I thank you for checking out this video and watching it through with me. I hope this guys give you some ideas for a hunting camp for yourself, because season here starts this coming Friday. We are less than a week from opening day of bow season in Missouri. I'm so excited. And I plan on doing some, you know, overnights here and getting up to go hunting the next morning and some stuff like that. I think that's going to be pretty awesome, and cooking some fresh venison from our harvest, Lord willing, right here over the fire and the tripod. So guys, again, thanks for watching me. Thanks for joining me. I know this was something new, something I don't normally do, but I figured all you good old boys hunters out there that, you know, we're traditional, right? So it doesn't get much more traditional hunting camp than this. Thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you get notified when I post new videos. Share my content, because all of those things helps this channel grow. Anyway, guys, get outside, enjoy the nice weather, get ready to hunt, shoot straight, and I'll catch you next time.